I don't know the answer to that question. I'd love to give you an answer. I hope it still has the name Jackson Hospital. I hope it has. I hope it's still somehow linked to this community. But what will they say about it? That depends on the decisions that are going to be made that I don't control.
Bill, 10 years from now, will we have 2 mega casinos in Miami-Dade County?
No.
Okay, Matt.
First of all, I have to thank Midtown Towing and Bob Levy Associates for always sponsoring meetings here, and Midtown Towing for the wine. But I have a question to Tal, because something he said is, for the last 40 years I've observed in Miami, the priority of the African American community, you know, every now and then we've got to do Overtown, we've got to resurrect Lisbury City, and it goes on for about a year, and then everyone forgets about it again. And as you mentioned, how in the next 20 years, because I've watched, you know, Overtown continues to decline, Liberty City looks like a no man's land, and there's an exodus, large exodus over the years of, you know, middle-income African-American population out of Dade County, followed by the Haitian middle class. And I think that's amazing things that we're losing. But how do we put that back on the agenda for this community? Because in many ways, I would think it's as important or more important than gambling.
I think the solution rests with the Black community believing that there is some power to be gained by having the right persons elected to represent them. And until we change our professed image as to what should be the character of those folks who run for office in our community, and until we are prepared to punish them if they do not do things for us as elected as opposed to do things selfishly, then things will not get better. That's why I'm saying it's the worst it's ever been. We just make one comment right after another. We talk about jobs, jobs, jobs. Part of the preliminary conversation is a discussion about who is unemployed. If you don't have that discussion, then you create jobs, but the folks who need jobs don't get the jobs, and therefore the problem is not resolved. We have this great discussion about jobs, jobs, jobs because of the recession. But I'm dealing with young boys in Liberty City who've never seen a man go to work every day. I'm a 4th generation. So the issue becomes who's unemployed? Because if we don't create enough jobs to get folks who are really unemployed long term, then the jobs creation will not have the impact on the future that we think it ought to have.
Here, Willie.
This right here.
You're right there.
Tell us who you are.
South Hurst.
Okay.
Mr. Lewis, you hit upon, I think, the most important thing, lack of leadership. We don't have the corporations down here anymore. We don't have the big banks down here, local banks. We don't have the Mitchell Wilsons, the Rick Bassett's, the Albert Chapmans. They're totally devoid of leadership. And I don't see any leadership coming up. I don't see anybody grabbing a hold of the void. I don't understand it.
You're looking for what's the solution to that?
I'm looking for a solution.
I think the solution should be in this room and other rooms like this where people get together and are concerned about issues. Because you're right, there's no big money that's going to play leadership. The big money in the community is going to say, which way is the wind blowing? And it's not going to take the kind of, I'll take Albert Chapman as a name, you can take all of this group, but take, Albert would have done it whether, whichever way the wind was blowing, he had a compass. Harvey was talking about that earlier on when we were talking. He had a moral compass. He knew which direction was the right, in his mind, is the right way to go, and he had moral standings behind it and a reason to do it. Right now, I'm afraid that the community, a lot of the leadership is, well, my boss is in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'll have to ask my boss what direction I think this community ought to go. They may never been to Miami. So I think it's got to come from those of us who are in this kind of room and other rooms like it throughout the community who say we want to make a difference and we're going to do something about it. I don't know how you do that, but I think community visioning, and I said it at the outset, if we don't have a shared community vision well, then we're not going to go very far, and we need that for leadership.
And with all deference to your very good paper, the newspaper down here is totally empty. Nobody listens to the Herald anymore. And they don't have any very good control over our politicians, and our politicians run rampant. So, we're a headless side down there.
You know, we touched, somebody mentioned very early on in the discussion, but I think it has to be mentioned again. We need to bring our charter into the 21st century in this county, and not do it piecemeal the way we've been doing it. They did the strong mayor change and didn't really think about how that part of the charter affected the rest of it, and adopted a whole change and left the county manager in and left a totally dysfunctional system in place. I think that there is certainly a place for districting, and we need to have full representation of the community, but we have to avoid the parochialism that seems to creep into a system when it is entirely districted and the districts are very small. So I think that one of the projects that needs to really be addressed in this community is a long-range look at this charter, to see how we can really enable it to bring about the kind of leadership and the kind of system that can function for everybody in the community. Not to do it piecemeal based upon one thing that somebody says needs to be changed, but to do it in a holistic way that really looks at all the proposed changes in the context of the overall as well. And I think you may see that happen after the next election. So it's hard to see real thought we put into that. But I think that's an essential